These are more than just the sounds of a safe place to go after school. These are the sounds of interest being ignited and of mentors making an impact. The sounds of tutoring and tech and health and fitness and arts and music. At Boys and Girls Clubs, we don't do just one thing. We do whatever it takes to meet the needs of every kid who comes through those doors. Because whatever it takes is what it takes to build great futures. Great futures start here.
Wow, that was a great clip. Before we jump into our discussion today, I do want to introduce Aubrey Merriman, who is the CEO of the Boys and Girls Club of North San Mateo County. And also we've got with us Ken Busch today, who's Senior Vice President with SARES REGIS, also on the Board of Directors of the Boys and Girls Club of North San Mateo County. Aubrey, that was a great clip, and I just want you to explain a little bit about, to our viewers, what you do at the Boys and Girls Club before we kind of talk a little bit about philanthropy in the organization.
Wonderful. Thank you for having me, by the way. Boys and Girls Clubs of North San Mateo County for over 65 years. We've been living our mission of inspiring and enable young people to reach their full potential and contribute to their communities. And we do that in a number of different ways, but primarily we do it in three overriding areas. We do it through academic success. We focus on academic success, which includes STEAM and STEM programming. We also do it through healthy lifestyles, healthy decision-making, and youth leadership development. We also do it through character building and citizenship. We service kids kindergarten through 18 years old. Our primary focus are children with low-income backgrounds, communities of color, and marginalized community. But we also integrate that with all kids that we feel can benefit from the Boys and Girls Club programming. We operate 12 months of the year, and we like to say that we do whatever it takes to make sure that our kids have an equal opportunity for a great future. And we do it through the partnership with community, our schools, and the corporate world.
Well, I hope everybody that's watching this program gives himself some joy and goes and visits any one of your sites, because it actually, when we saw the kids and how much joy and happiness was on their faces, you can feel it once you walk in those doors. But I also want to talk about a really important partnership, and that is a philanthropic partner, because none of us in the nonprofit world or any of the community-based organizations can do anything without our philanthropy partners. And Ken, you represent a company that has been so generous to all of San Mateo County and throughout all of your geographic areas that you serve, and that is the SARES REGIS Community Educational and Community Foundation. So tell us a little bit about why you do what you do as SARES REGIS, a company, why you started a foundation, and then why you chose the Boys and Girls Club to be such a great partner with.
Yeah, so we've been developing on the peninsula for 25 years now, and about 5 years ago, we developed a foundation to really give back to the communities that we work in. Mm-hmm. We feel that it's the communities that we work in and that we live in, we wanted to give something back. And we've looked at a lot of different communities. We've done a lot of things in Sunnyvale, in San Jose, and throughout the peninsula. And most recently, we're developing making a big investment in developing a large community in South San Francisco. So we wanted to give back to that community.
Right.
And the Boys and Girls Club was a great partnership. We spoke to Aubrey and asked him where he felt there was a need. And in the 21st century, it's all technology. It's all science technology. And providing kids and children an opportunity to really expand their abilities and their knowledge in this space is really a great use. We take the educational portion very seriously with our foundation, mm-hmm. and this is right in that strike zone. So it's an area that we're definitely working in, and it's an area where we can help people and grow, and kids grow from an educational perspective.
Right. And I think, we all have visions of the Boys and Girls Club. We probably, as youth, stepped into a Boys and Girls Club, and we have sort of this knowledge of, the pool tables and the sports happening, and But now it's a very sophisticated program with curriculum in the sense of supporting kids in education and in the home. And now you've got this full STEAM and STEM program within the Boys and Girls Club, which is something we wouldn't have looked at a decade ago within the Boys and Girls Club. So tell us a little bit about how you're learning as well with the needs of your kids.
Absolutely, and part of it is really making sure that you develop a learning organization that's responding to the contextual factors that are changing each and every day.
Yeah.
And so the club that we were 65 years ago, we're not the club that we are today. As Ken alluded to, it's about 21st century learning and creating those opportunities. But we also take a whole child development approach. It's important for us to look at the child and the ecosystem that surrounds that child and try to address the needs. And we know that the kids that we serve, particularly kids of color and low-income kids, have a constellation of needs. And you can't address the constellation of needs with a single intervention approach. So we also look at STEAM and STEM, and we also look at what are the ways in which we can level the playing field in that space. We know that the kids that we serve, the kids that look like our kids and the kids that come from the backgrounds that our kids come from, are grossly underrepresented in the STEAM and STEM space. And so for us, this gives us the opportunity to help level that playing field for them. So once we started as a very humble organization with the swim and gym and the pool tables. And there's still a recreational piece that's still important, but we also have layered on some sophistication in youth development program that really looks at that young person holistically. And our intervention aims to follow them from kindergarten through to high school graduation and beyond. So the longer they're exposed to the Boys and Girls Club, the better the outcomes that they get. And we served in last year 4,500 young people. So we like to think that we have influence and an opportunity. Partnerships that we have with SARES Regis and the ability to put together this STEAM and STEM program space allows us to really optimize that platform that we have. It's such a privilege to be in the lives of these young people and the families and caregivers that entrust us to help transform great kids into great adults. And that's what we're in the business of doing, is transform great kids into great adults.
And I love the whole mission of Boys and Girls Clubs, because there's one common thread. Each Boys and Girls Club might have a little different personality as they're serving different communities, right? We all have, what you have in North San Mateo County might have a little different personality than when you have in the southern part of, but where there's this common thread is the fact that you take children from a very young age and you stay with them all the way through into their college careers and beyond, as you said, because many of the folks that you see come back and work for the organization. So it's a great 360-degree circle. But I love the fact that you're serving children in one single program or one organization all the way through their youth and adult life. It's not sitting, once they reach teen that they're now going on to a different program or they're now being handed off to a different organization. I love that aspect of it. And then as a funder, that's got to be a really great aspect of the program, because now you can track data. Everything about philanthropy today is organizational value and how you can track if in fact your philanthropy is working for your community. Evidence-based fundraising is what we call it. We have to deliver to you to know that your dollars are working and that you're actually influencing a community for better. So how did you guys even think about getting into wanting to form a corporate philanthropy or a foundation so that we can encourage others to do so?
Well, like I said, it's really, we wanted to make an investment in where we live and where we work. And our grants typically are for a specific item so that we can see that at the end of the day. Because it really helps to empower us, both us as an organization, but also our employees too, to really get that feeling of that philanthropy. Our employees have an opportunity to contribute to the philanthropy, to the foundation, but then we also contribute some of our profits to the organization.
Well, and it's obvious that it's not just about treasure, it's about time as well. Since you sit on the board of directors of the Boys and Girls Club, it shows that you have a corporate responsibility to actually sit at the seat of what you're funding and also being involved in your community. I've seen many of the SARES Regis employees at tree plantings and at Project Read and all sorts of community organizations, sheriff activities leagues and police activities leagues and all, we could name a whole bunch of them. But so Ken, SARES Regis has the Educational and Community Foundation, and it's so important for nonprofits to be able to have these corporate partners. How does SARES Regis do it in order to have this philanthropic arm?
One of the things we do with the larger donations that we make, such as the STEAM program at the Boys and Girls Club, is we work with our trade partners and our other partners that are working on the new housing community that we're creating. And with those contributions, that allows us to aggregate those funds to make a very significant commitment and difference in an organization like the Boys and Girls Club.
Well, you have to please pass on a thank you to your trade partners as well for making something like this happen.
And the young people that we serve are why we exist. Relationships with SARES Regis and opportunities like this is how we exist. So thank you.
So let's go back to, you talked about providing service to youth, families, communities that are really quite unique today. So what is the right program for one child may not be the right program for the next child.
Absolutely.
Because they're growing up with very different influences and very different resources and very different learning abilities. So how do you manage all of that when you need to serve so many kids, but they all have some very unique opportunity and challenges?
That's a great question, and I appreciate your recognition of the nuance that goes involved in youth development work. A lot of it is centered around what our framework is as an organization and how we train our staff. We are focusing increasingly around trauma-informed and socially emotional learning. We know that young people face adverse childhood experiences, and that impacts them in their adulthood. So we really look at what are the social and environmental determinants of health. And we know that kids that are from certain communities have certain social and environmental determinants of health. And we try to play to those trauma-based approaches. So we do a lot of social emotional development work. We try to look at the child holistically, as I said before. So with one demographics, it could be gender-based specific programming that talks about the transition from elementary to middle school to high school. For other groups, it can be leadership and service-driven. So it's really looking at how do we be responsive to the context that we see, and how do we be innovative with our programs. And we understand that there's not a one-size-fits-all model. So it's a challenge, as I said before, to be a learning organization, to challenge your staff to be the best in their roles, and to be able to understand what's out there and what are some of the best practices that we're seeing in the sector. And I'll just end by also saying, our programs are informed by what our young people tell us as well too. So part of it is being responsive. So when the young people come to us and share where programs may hit, where programs may miss, where there might be gaps, we try to be responsive to what the young people are telling us, because they really are, at the end of the day, the shareholders of the organization.
Right. I'm so glad you said that, because I think a lot of times we sit as adults and trying to figure out programming and mission, and we forget to ask the people that we're actually trying to affect, because they again may say, I'm not gonna do that. There's no appeal. But then if we talk about what would be appealing, then there's a way in which to make that learning happen, because it's fun and relatable.
Absolutely. And there's a humility to this work that says, hey, you don't know everything.
Right.
And you can learn from somebody that's 20 years older than you just as much as you can learn from somebody who's 20 years younger than you, but just be open to learning. And I'll also say that kids ultimately vote with their feet, right? So they'll tell you if your programs are resonating with them and if you're delivering the impact that they want to see, because they'll vote with their feet.
Right. So having this sort of unique based learning, individual based learning, coaching your staff to really see things beyond learning capabilities, sort of learning how to find these emotional, social indicators that say that there may be something going on. Those are all sort of changes that you've brought, or identifications that you've brought to the organization within the last 3 years. What would you say has been sort of a shift that you can say, I really wanted to make this happen as being CEO of the organization? Yeah,
and I think the shift is really evolving our program model from what it used to be. I think the blessing and curse of being a long-time organization with a really strong brand is the brand is well known, but what happens in a club is not known well. And so to be able to create compelling stories to let people know that we've evolved over time. So I think if I look back over the course of 3 years, it's really the evolution of the organization and the lens in which we approach the work. And the framework doesn't happen by me talking about it. It comes through repetition, practice, evaluation, and just sort of a shift in how you actually do business. So it starts with behaviors first, and then the attitudes comes after. So for me, it's been 3 years of really investing in, creating the right chemistry among staff, creating the right focus, and then crystallizing our mission around those kids that we feel need us the most, and how do we track what that means for us.
Right.
And for us, that means kids that are on free and reduced lunch. It means creating an organization that's nimble, that can be able to respond and follow the needs as it shifts. And it's an organization that responds to larger contextual factors like income inequality and everything that's surrounded about that. We have families that are being displaced or moving further and further from where they work. They're having to work longer hours. Kids are being left unsupervised after school.
Right.
That's a critical time. How do we create a premium in that space that really adds value to what we're trying to do?
Well, Aubrey, you always provide a learning point for all of us, including me and all of our viewers, for Penn Voice today. And I'm sorry to say that we are out of time, but I want to thank you, Ken, and SARES Regis for being part of our community, for impacting our community, and for starting such an important educational and community foundation. Thank you, and thank you for your service. Aubrey, it's always a great time interviewing you on Penn Voice, because I learn something every time. Thank you for your great dedication to youth and raising such enriched and productive communities. So we thank you for your work in our community, and we're out of time. So we're saying goodbye to our Penn Voice viewers, and we'll see you at one of the Boys and Girls Clubs.